Hi, this is Thierry Samlal from PMML. Today I would like to present you market statistics for multifamily in the province of Quebec for the month of March 2025. What else could I say that impressive? Impressive market in multifamily in the province of Quebec. All my indicators here are almost green. What I'm doing here is I would like to start by comparing the last 3 months, the first 3 months of the year, so the first trimester of this year, 2025, and compare it to the last quarter of 2024 and look at the indicators. So first of all, let's go administrative region by region. So let's start with the Outaouais region, which is next to the Ottawa market. That's pretty stable. We're seeing increase in price per door of about 8.1% in the last quarter, which is really impressive for the price per door. Also, gross revenue multiplier has increased of about 5.5%, which is pretty impressive, meaning that we're seeing more and more value-add properties going into that market and being purchased by purchasers out there. A lot of land, mind you, being sold there. So the price per door is actually, the average price per door in that area is actually higher than what I'm giving you. But if we're only looking at the existing assets, we're at an average of about $171,000 per door. Let's go into Montreal, 852 transactions, which is pretty impressive. An increase of about 2.8% in number of transactions, but in volume, an increase of about 12%. And that's for the first quarter of 2025. The number of units sold went up about 9.8% in Montreal, and the average price per door 2.4%. So we're now at approximately $187,000 per door for an asset in a market that maybe 5 years back we were approximately $130,000 per door. So that's a great increase. And that's an average. So there's units being sold way above that in more requested areas. Let's go into South Shore of Montreal, the Montérégie region, 379 transactions, an increase in transactions of 7.1% and in volume of 27.7%. It's one of the areas in the province of Quebec that's increased the most. And we're also seeing, a price per door increase of 5.5% in the last trimester. It's incredible what we're seeing in the market right now. And that's due to the fact that there's a lot more buyers in the market. Market confidence is there. People know that brick could sustain value on the long term, and there's value add to be added to that. Of course, with the types of financing we're able to get and the alternative loans, which are back in course right now, it makes everything more logical. Let's go to Laval. Laval, we have an increase in the number of doors sold of 14.5%, but an increase in volume of about 49%. Okay, so Laval, there's not that many transactions in a year, but we've just carried out an incredible number of transactions volume-wise in the first quarter of 2024. In a market where price per door has gone up about 3%, we're in an average of about $178,000 per door. Now, this is an average, folks. Don't go out there unless you're building at that price. You need to have a comparable market analysis prepared, something professional. What we do here is we look at what was sold, the comparables, but above that, we look at the sales volume of what is accepted and accepted offers. And that's where the market's going. We're able to compute that into our figures. And today, people are not ready to sell their building to the first come, a phone call, a letter by the mail. That doesn't work anymore. People want multiple offers on the table. They want to say, okay, my building's worth that. Okay, give me a price. Okay, next door neighbor, give me a price too. And everybody gives a price, and then you have multiple offers. It gives a better idea of the market. In market change, you want several offers on the table. Does it mean that the first one's not going to win? But you want to be able to compare, and you want to be, you want to be taken in charge by a professional. Let's go to the Sherbrooke region, Estrie. It's more or less stable, but what I find interesting is the price per door has gone up 11.1%. So the same number of transactions, but an increase of over 10% in price per door. That's incredible. Let's go to Quebec City, Capitale Nationale, 359 transactions. That's huge. A lot of accepted offers. When you're going on MLS these days in Quebec City, look at what's available in multifamily. A lot of accepted offers all across the board. We're talking about 13.6% variation number of transactions, and the volume went up about 29%. And look at that. This is pretty incredible also. That much volume, but the price per door went up 3.3%. People are more conservative in Quebec. That means there's more sellers on the market willing to sell their assets. Interesting to see the market, how it's going. So apart from that, if I'm looking at the volume, a lot of 50 doors and above were sold in the last 12 months. A lot. We're talking about an increase in volume of about 28%, meaning that there's long-time owners which are selling their assets because they're at that age. They're at that age point where they're going to sell. And that fits exactly with a moment where the market is very liquid. That's why we have a lot of activity. That's why we have a lot of buyers. That's why we're going in multiple offers, getting the best price and the best conditions for both parties. And then we go and we do the transaction. Let's talk about transactions. We have a retirement home complex that sold 636 units, sold for how much? Almost $136 million. It was a transaction that took place between a consortium of an Ontario Inc. company and also Timber Creek Mortgage Investment Fund that sold to Chartwell Mastercare LP. Now, Chartwell has been moving aggressively across the market in the past 18 months to acquire properties across Canada. Here we have a massive amount we have different buildings located in the same complex, well located in the western part of the eastern part of Montreal, let's call it like that, really central. But in a district where there's a lot of families, there's a nice park in front of the complex, there's a public pool, there's amenities, there's 2 supermarkets right there within a minute walking distance. There's no major public transportation except for buses, but everything can be done by foot. You have banks, restaurants, fruit stores, cafes, name it, everything is there. And also you can walk to the Plateau district, which is right next door. You could walk there, but you don't have all of the traffic and the circulation problems and the parking problems that you would have in the Plateau. And you're right there in Rosemont. So it's a really, really good spot. Chartwell bought this asset for about $213,000 per door. Understand the concept here. Concrete assets existing, a little bit of wear and tear, but at least you're sure of what you're buying. And on top of that, you're in a market where the price per door should normally be more around $450,000 per door to build the same asset. You're saving a lot of money. Now, Chartwell has this vision because in the province of Quebec right now, 1 out of 5 people are above 65 years of age. And about 10 years from now, that's going to be 1 out of 4 people. That's a huge markup difference. We're going to need to have buildings which have that lifestyle that our seniors are going to want. Our seniors that are now more autonomous than ever, where healthcare is now mobile. There's a CLSC close by. You could walk there, walking distance. So it makes a lot of sense, and Chartwell is really positioning themselves well right now and taking that market that's been left in a good condition. I mean, these assets are in very good condition, but Chartwell sees the future value of what it's going to be in about 10 years, what's going to be worth in about 10 years from now. So really interesting to see that transaction happen. The rest of my transactions, I have 9 other transactions. Really interesting to see they're all private investors on both sides, seller buyers. No investment funds, no REITs here. 6-story, 119 unit building, 1969 construction. Are you sitting down? This thing sold for almost $410,000 per door. That's huge markup. That's a huge price per door for a 1969 asset. And people right now have that vision of just buying. They're playing Monopoly. I'll buy now. I'll put in my asset database. There's no land to build in Montreal, almost no land to build anymore. And if you want to optimize, there's small lots. You have to combine those lots, convert industrial property. There's a lot of industrial land that was converted already in Montreal. There's not that much left in the center core. So if you could buy existing assets, price per door, it makes sense. Montreal is an island. It's like New York. I mean, it's going to densify vertically, and the price per door is going up. And there's a proof right now that it is. Let's go to Laval, 1977. 120 units, brick and wood, 3 stories above ground, sold for $180,000 per door. Really interesting to see these prices. I'm going to just shoot a few so that you can see where the market's going here. Let's go to Three Rivers. When does a concrete 10-story asset get sold in Three Rivers? Never. There's one that's sold here. 1975 construction. That's 50 years old, folks. So still young enough in age for the rest of the database, but not brand new. And this sold for $150,000 per door. If you want to buy assets at a lower price per door, go in a market where the rents are lower, but where you have more chance of increasing the rents. And here we have an asset that sold for $150,000 per door for concrete. That's like prices in Montreal years ago. Really, really interesting to see that. Pierre de Coubertin in Hochelaga Maisonneuve, so close to the Olympic Stadium, 1963 construction, 3 stories above ground, 56 units, went for $285,714 per door. We're not talking about brand new assets here. We're talking about 1963 construction, but very well located. Right next to the subway system, right next to the Impact Stadium, soccer stadium. You have the Botanical Gardens, which are walking distance, Maisonneuve Park, which is walking distance. You have a big, huge Montreal public indoor pool. You have the cinema. You have the Biodome. You have the planetarium. Everything is walking distance. It's a lifestyle living there. And you have access to 2 different areas. Either you go to the Hochelaga Maisonneuve, Ontario district, where there's all the stores and commerces, or you could walk up the hill and go to the Rosemont area where you could get all those amenities also. Let's go into Pierrefonds, 1977 construction, 89 units, went for $150,000 per door, approximately in range, $150,562. This asset has been sold with other assets belonging to the seller as a package, and the buyer was able to pick them up for $150,562 per door in an area where the price per door is a little higher. Interesting purchase. South Shore of Montreal, Longueuil, 2 assets, one that burnt down to the ground that was rebuilt, and another one right next to it, very well maintained. The janitor in that building did a super job. It was very clean. There was a manager taking care of the rents on location. The owners were of a certain age, living in Longueuil. Very good reputation, had a lot of, were very proud of their building and maintaining it very well. We sold that for $177,536 per door at a cap rate of 3.69. The buyer being a professional, understanding where the asset was going, and we sold that with 11 or 12 multiple offers. So really interesting to see, and I'm very happy of the buyer that got it. They fought very hard to get that property, and you know, I mean, now they're already working on it, and they're very happy. The rents have already went up. They have some vacant units that became vacant naturally that they're refurbishing slightly, and they're putting back for rental on market. Plateau Mont-Royal, Du Rocher, for those who know it. So almost downtown Montreal, very close to the mountain, very much in demand area. 5 stories, 55 units, went for $221,818 per door, which is pretty much market. Wilderton, concrete building, close to the universities, Côte des Neiges. 4 stories, 51 units, went for $235,294 per door. As you can see, people that have been following me for years have been seeing the prices increase as we were going along. And there was a couple of stable periods, but never did we sink in the last year in values. We were always going up. Let's finish by a Melville property in Westmount, 1923 construction, 3 stories above ground, 37 units, went for $278,378 per door. So what I want you to remember here is we're in a very active market, multiple offers. People want to get their buildings exposed. People are getting refinancing their assets at great amounts. They're able to finance existing assets. They have a lot of liquid, so they're willing to purchase an asset, sleep on it, optimize it, do some renos, work with the tenants to increase their values, and to make sure that their businesses are going well and they're looking to detain on a period of 7 to 10 years. That's a new reality that we have now, notably in Montreal and in the province of Quebec. So I hope this information was useful to you. Don't hesitate to give me a call, send me an email. We can prepare a comparable market analysis for you. And I'll see you next month in our next market assessment, and we'll look at the values and the variations. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your real estate adventures. Take care.